Welcome everyone to Mail Fuzz News. I am Pierre, that is Connor. This is your Tuesday edition for the week. There wasn't one on Saturday, so there's a couple of news things from Friday mixed in here too, but most of it is from, of course, today, which is Monday, because you always get it the next day. Why am I over-explaining this? I don't know, it doesn't matter, there's some news to talk about. We got movie news, we got TV news, we have new premiere or release dates and things like that. So we'll start with movies. And we'll start with Jordan Vogt-Roberts, who of course directed Kong Skull Island, which I'm not a huge fan of, but other people seem to like it.
Matt's favourite movie of the last 5 years.
Yeah, Matt's favourite movie of the last 5
I'm not sure I'm exaggerating there.
I don't know if he said that, but he definitely said on Twitter in the last week that Kong Skull Island is in his top 15 or 20 of all time, which is madness. Absolute madness. So
you give that man a giant ape and Brie Larson, he's very happy, it seems.
Yes. So he's signed on to direct a movie here. He's going to direct Gundam.
Oh, hello.
For Netflix, based on the iconic Japanese mecha franchise. It's coming from Legendary, which notably is the same people who are doing Godzilla and the Kong movies, so could this lead to a crossover at some point? It's entirely possible. Why'd you hope not?
Because they're so separate, I wouldn't want them crossed over.
But is it not giant robots?
It is, but it's all like in the future. I mean, I guess technically you could do that, but
I'm just saying that I wouldn't mind Godzilla beating the shit out of all these robots. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, so yes, Brian K. Vaughan is handling the screenplay.
Okay.
And I'm a fan of Brian K. Vaughan's comics.
It brought me down a little notch there.
So you like Gundam. I was going to say you like the director. I don't know if you really cared about the director, but you like
I mean, I'm indifferent on the director, but I like Gundam a lot.
Yes, I don't care about Gundam, but I like Brian K. Vaughan.
Okay, so we can both be excited for something.
Yes. The plot's under wraps, but the original franchise is set in the Universal Century, an era in which humanity's growing population has led people to emigrate to space colonies. Eventually, the people living in the colonies seek their autonomy and launch a war of independence against the people living on Earth. The battles in the story are fought... Right, expanse in a weird way. The battles in the story are fought by the characters piloting robots as known as mobile suits. Not mechs. Okay.
It's just the name. I mean, you gotta remember, this was from late 70s, early 80s.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little surprised that Gundam's an actual I thought Gundam was just a genre.
Oh, no. I mean, it is now, because that's this started it all, but it's had 20 series, something like that, 15 series, and movies.
I legitimately thought Gundam just meant anything with this type of mech suit was a Gundam.
It kind of does now. You can kind of refer to something as Gundam and people will know what you mean, but there is the actual franchise as well.
It's not as funny as I had a friend in high school who... It was back when the PS3 and 360 were out, and all the various rock bands and Guitar Heroes were coming out.
Yeah.
And there was I think it was Rock Band had a Motown release, or one of those types of things had Motown, and and I guess it's not as silly maybe as I'm going to make him sound, because there was technically Rock Band Metallica or something like that as well, but he thought that Motown was just a band, a group. He didn't know Motown was a genre. Anyway, I guess it's the flip of...
it's the inverse, yeah.
Yes, I'm thinking the opposite, but it's making me think of it. Anyway, so Netflix are producing a Gundam movie with Jordan Vogt-Roberts from Kong Skull Island directing, with Brian K. Vaughan writing, and this is a weird concoction of different things. Who knows how it's going to end up?
I would say... I would prefer it as a TV show as opposed to a movie, given, I mean, there are a good handful of Gundam movies, all animated, of course, but generally speaking, they don't hold up against the shows because they just have a lot more depth to them.
I think it's a hard sell to do a live-action TV show of this because...
Expensive.
Expensive, yeah. I mean, you can do a 2-hour, even a 3-hour movie a few times with a huge budget, but doing consistent mech effects in a TV show.
Yeah, it's fine for animation, which is why it has thrived. But I get it. I'm still excited for this.
Yes. I'm curious. I won't say I'm optimistic. I would just say I'm curious.
Because it is like very anime. Because on top of the we're in space, we got mechs. There are also like some psychic abilities as well. Like people are evolving in space. So you have like some precognition, stuff like that. So I wonder how much of that will play into the movie, because that is very early on in the franchise that stuff's introduced.
So moving on, we actually have some Star Trek movie news. Believe it or not.
Oh.
We don't know much, but we do have a release date. So we don't have a title. We don't know who's directing it. We don't know what the premise is. We do know that J.J. Abrams is still producing the movie, but that doesn't necessarily say much. I mean, it maybe implies
tons of shit.
Yeah, but it maybe implies that it's going to continue the previous batch, but
it tells us they haven't completely burnt their bridges with him.
Yeah. But anyway, the release date is the 9th of June, 2023. So in just over 2 years, they're expecting a new Star Trek movie to come out.
Interesting. I take it this came out as part of, they announced a whole slate of dates that were moving, right?
I've got some later on. A couple of the more
they had
ones.
a whole, they had a whole list of everything. Basically, here's the updated slate. I'm assuming this came as part of that announcement. But interesting that it's, relatively speaking, so soon, given that we know absolutely nothing about it, and doesn't seem like they know anything about it yet.
Yeah, is this more the Kelvin verse? Is this a new concept? Is it a new reboot? Is it something that's going to, in some way, link up with any of the current shows? Who knows? It's kind of open at this point. Because it's been just long enough that I really don't know if they get this cast back now.
No, I don't know.
And for multiple reasons. On the one hand, like, it's been long enough that them even want to come back for it now. But on the other hand, it's not even just about them. It's like, do the studio even want to continue that version?
I mean, how long till? Obviously, that was the kind of reboot of the original series. How long till they attempt to kind of reboot some next gen stuff here now? And do they shuffle along the timeline?
Is this the fabled Tarantino movie that they're going to announce properly at some point?
Didn't he kind of back out of that in the end?
I don't know if there was ever anything official to back out of, but
fair enough. I was under the impression that had fallen through.
But hey, so yeah, possible Star Trek movie in 2023. Next up, more casting for Shazam 2, or Shazam Fury of the Gods, as they're calling it. Lucy Liu has signed on to play the villainous Calypso in Fury of the Gods. So that's another villain. So we got Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu as villains.
I missed Helen Mirren. What?
I guess you were on the news that day.
No, who's she playing?
Oh, I can't remember. It's a god.
That narrows it down.
But it's not one that's been in DC as far as we could tell.
Oh, okay.
I don't think. Which made me kind of feel like, they're kind of looking for villains because they're holding off on Black Adam until whenever. I mean, by the time they actually have Shazam versus Black Adam, the kid who plays Billy Batson's going to be like 35. But whatever.
Hespera, daughter of Atlas. Oh, okay, sure. Interesting.
Yes.
Very interesting.
And apparently Calypso, yes.
It's also from Greek myth.
Yes, she's the sister. She's the Hespera's sister. So,
Calypso, I believe, is from the Odyssey, and she was the one that she's banished to an island, and he Odysseus washes up on her island, and she falls in love with him, but has to he has to leave, and that's like her punishment from the gods is that
well,
she doesn't get to get loved.
This will still be in theaters when that Star Trek movie comes out, because this is opening the 2nd of June 2023, which is not new information, but just interesting given that we just talked about another movie in June 2023.
Hey, I mean, maybe we'll have movies again by then.
I suspect we probably will.
I'd like to think so.
Still waiting for my vaccine, admittedly. And, I keep hearing
Maybe wait a while.
I keep hearing about people getting theirs, and I'm just like, well, where's my vaccine?
Yeah. I'm just too damn young.
Yeah, but I'm seeing people younger than me now in other countries getting it. Well, What's Boris playing at?
Do you want a list?
No,
we
I don't.
could be here all night.
Let's not get into it. I don't want to. Next up, Indiana Jones 5 news. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is they're going to co-star opposite Harrison Ford in the 5th Indiana Jones film. I'm assuming it's not a love interest because she's like a third of his age.
Yeah, I would like to assume so.
Yes.
She's a very good actress.
I don't know from anything.
She did Fleabag. That's her.
No, never seen it.
we spoke about her recently because she is doing a show on Amazon with Glover.
Okay, so this is just someone who obviously is making a name for herself, but in nothing that I have seen. So
she was the voice of the droid in. Oh no, you didn't see Solo. Damn it, never mind.
Nice try. So some women.
I was really thinking something.
Some women who may or may not exist. I'm not convinced yet. Is going to star opposite Harrison Ford in the 5th one. And to remind everyone that James Mangold is directing this, which is the most interesting thing about it, I would say. But
beyond just generic excitement because Indiana Jones, yeah, I mean, it means it'll probably be quite good.
The release date right now is 29th of July 2022, so we'll see how that goes. I am very cynical about this because this to me is a sequel that probably, I mean, the last one shouldn't have existed, so this one definitely shouldn't exist. Now, Mangold's a good director, so he might give us something that is worthy, but it kind of reeks of we're carting out Harrison Ford. I mean, the man's ancient now, and that's no offense to him. But
it's going to be a torch passing movie, right?
I mean, we all thought that about the last one.
Well, yeah, but that was Shia LaBeouf, so who gives a shit?
It's so weird. I mean, yeah, maybe they're going to set up Phoebe Waller-Bridge as kind of the new lady indie.
I will tell you, if that is what happens, the internet will. Well, no, half of the internet will absolutely love that.
Yes.
No, I'll be on that. And then there will be the terrible part of the internet that will lose their shit, and I will love that.
Yes. The people who think the SJWs are invading cinema and ruining everything. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. There was a comment on a video just yesterday on one of the shows, and the only reason I'm bringing this up is because someone said, "Oh, I hate how SJW was used." What was the other phrase that was used? I just the woke movement or whatever.
The woke brigade
has invaded my favorite genre, which is sci-fi, and I'm like. Have you seen the original Star Trek series? Like, that was woke as shit in the 60s. Like, what are you talking about?
It's kind of been...
Sci-fi's always been woke.
All good sci-fi has been woke.
Which is funny to me, because when you look at it, it's like, okay, why do people nowadays not look back at the original Star Trek and think that it's super woke? And it's because it's old enough now that all the things that were making it woke at the time are just so accepted now, and I don't think they get the irony that that's the point of a lot of this, is that in 40 years time when we look back at this time period, we're not going to see things as being like forced or woke or anything. It's just going to be, no, this is the way it should have been,
we
and
will
it feels
applaud
normal.
it in hindsight of like, oh, that was good for its time, wasn't it? But
I mean, not the only goal, but that's definitely part of. Anyway, the comment made me laugh. Science fiction. It only just get invaded by the woke brigade, apparently. The whole point of science fiction is to view humanity through lenses and look at politics and
yeah, I mean, like, has this person heard of Frankenstein? If you really want to go back?
The original science fiction thing, which was written by a woman.
Yes, in the late 1800s.
Yes. And do you know what that was? That was SJW Gold? I don't know, what's
the opposite of trash?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think. What's the opposite of trash? Because this is... Science fiction has been invaded.
Sometimes I love the internet.
Invaded? Oh my god.
Oh, he thinks it's a Body Snatchers movie.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yes.
More news.
Yes. Yeah, it's more news. What's next on this list here? Neon's won rights to a Ryan Gosling film. Here we go. So, Neon, who's distributor behind Parasite, which doesn't really mean anything, but that's just the one thing you'll know them from, if nothing else. They've got the North American rights to Ryan Gosling's film The Actor, which is coming from Anomalisa director Duke Johnson. Gosling will play an actor. Obviously he is an actor, but he's going to play the role of an actor.
Honestly though, given the title, probably could have guessed that.
Yes, but he's playing an actor called Paul Cole, who becomes stranded in 1950s Ohio after a brutal attack. Suffering from severe memory loss, he struggles to find his way back to his life in New York and reclaim what he's lost. It is based on the best-selling noir novel Memory by Donald E. Westlake. And Johnson wrote the script alongside Stephen Cooney. So, interesting.
I got more interested when you mentioned the word noir there, because up to that, I was interested because Ryan Gosling film, I'm sure he's very good.
Further down here, there is just one of the quotations here. Well, actually, not even a quotation. It's just Deadline happens to point out that it sounds close in tone to something like Drive, to compare it to something. So think 50s badass Gosling fighting his way back to his home city. I don't know. I mean, it sounds like it could be good. Yeah. I never saw Anomalisa.
A lot of praise though, didn't it?
It did get a lot of praise. I should probably add it to the old watch list. But yes, this is definitely more the sort of Ryan Gosling thing that I'm into. Instead of, say, I don't know, something with that.
You dare say a bad word here, sir, and we will have
Damien
a disagreement.
Something, whoever he is.
Chazelle,
that's the one. Damien Chazelle Theron, yes. Hey, First Man was alright. First Man was pretty good.
First Man was very good. Well, it wasn't his best work, admittedly. I mean, for either of them, but I mean, very good movie still.
Yeah. La La Land, though. Oof. All right, moving on.
I want to watch it again now. I've got all these goddamn Oscar-nominated films to watch in the next 2 weeks, and now all I want to do is watch La La Land. Why would you do that to me, you prick?
Joe Cornish is going to direct a Mark Miller adaptation.
He might be one of the only other people who can save a Mark Miller property.
This is Starlight. So Joe Cornish, of course, who directed Attack the Block and has worked with Matthew Vaughn, and has worked with.
He did the King Arthur movie a couple of years back. The kids King Arthur movie. Can't remember what it was called. It was pretty good.
Oh yeah, I remember. I saw the trailer for that 50 times. I never saw the movie, but
it had Patrick Stewart as Merlin, and I was like, sign me up.
Simon Kinberg and Audrey Chon are producing. I mean, Kinberg's a name I don't like seeing, but he's not directing, so it's okay.
Yeah.
So the comic centers on a space hero who saved the universe 35 years ago, but when he came back to Earth, no one believed his fantastic stories. He married, had kids, and settled into old age, but then his old rocket ship shows up, and he's called back for one fantastic adventure. So.
I'm trying to see who the artist on Starlight was.
Goran Parlov.
I recognize I look at the cover now. I recognize it. I never read this one, unsurprisingly. But I'm not I've tried a lot of Mark Miller books, the first issue at least. I never did this one.
No, I've bizarrely really liked a couple of his adaptations because Matthew Vaughn is just a really great director and knows how to.
I don't think I'm gonna like Jupiter's Legacy that much based on that trailer.
Yeah, but that's not Matthew Vaughn though, right? That's
no, it's not. No. But I just mean in terms of Miller adaptations
sure,
that are coming in the very near future, like next month.
Yeah. Oh yeah, can't wait for that. So okay, we got a couple of the Paramount release dates we talked about. Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origins. Don't these companies learn? Did X-Men Origins Wolverine not teach anyone anything?
I mean, maybe. I know I'm being way too generous here, but maybe the lesson they took is don't make a shit film, and then the title won't matter. Maybe.
Now, admittedly, I'm going to make something very clear for the audience here. G.I. Joe had no impact in the UK. I never saw a shred of it growing up. I have no idea who Snake Eyes is. I have never heard of Snake Eyes. So this title's even funnier to me because it's trying to make it feel important for something that I've never heard of.
In the UK, we had Action Man, and Pete didn't care about Action Man either, but that is what we had. That was our equivalent.
Yeah, that looked like shit too.
Hey, screw you. I loved Action Man.
Boring military spy crap. Okay?
Definitely not James Bond. For kids, is what it was.
Yes. So, no attachment to this. Anyway, so this movie that exists apparently has been moved from October 22nd to July 23rd, so it's moved up quite a bit. I assume that's this year. It doesn't actually say, but I assume that just means this year. So, yeah.
I guess, yeah. What that tells me is they don't care that much about this movie, honestly. They're just like, that'll do as a testing ground in July. They're willing to sacrifice this one. Yes.
More, perhaps a bigger deal to Paramount is that Top Gun Maverick is moving from the 2nd of July. So this is kind of roughly what's swapping with it, although it's not quite matching up date today. But that's moving to November the 19th.
Yeah, they didn't want to risk it with this one.
Yeah. And what was originally going to be in that November date was another Tom Cruise movie. It was going to be Mission Impossible 7, which is now coming out 27th of May 2022, which is the Memorial Day weekend, which is not a thing, obviously, we have in the UK. Well, I mean, we have our version of it later in the year, but, like, in the sense that, you know, Memorial Day...
We don't have that weekend.
Yeah. But I always hear about it, because I always look at box office numbers, so they always talk about, you know, Memorial Day weekend.
I never know it's coming until I'm on Twitter and all the Americans are like, hey, long weekend. I'm like, huh, okay then.
So that's neat. And then, of course, they also pointed out that Mission Impossible 8, and these will have titles, they won't be called 7 and 8, but that's now going to open on the 7th of July 2023. So they're going to be a year apart, presumably.
That is quick, especially for those movies, which have not been yearly.
I think they shot them back to back, or maybe even all as one.
Okay.
So maybe that's why. That was meant to come out on November 2022, so it was meant to be a year apart originally as well. So they've both been pushed to the summers, but the gap between them is more or less the same, you know, give or take a month. So
fair enough then.
So that was always the plan, at least. So we're starting to get to a point where I'm starting to believe these dates a little bit, where I'm like, you know what, I can see these dates sticking now.
Definitely like from November on with with Top Gun. Maybe, yeah. Because
Godzilla vs Kong has done I think it's almost made more than what the last Godzilla movie did, despite the fact that we're in a pandemic. So that's kind of been this sign of like, hey, movies can still make money right now. Enough people are starting to get vaccinated, or at the very least,
I think there's part of it as well where people just want to do stuff. Right?
No, I think that's true. I think what's really funny about all this, I've said this before, but so much stuff got delayed for a year and a half that we're actually going to have a really like quick schedule for a while.
We're going to have an amazing couple of years.
Yeah, and then it's going to slow down again when things sort of even out.
I think these first ones in particular might do very well. The novelty might wear off very quickly. I don't know, but I think people are just desperate to go out and do stuff. It's the only game in town. Like here in the UK, you can go to the pub again for the first time in God knows how long. Outdoors only, of course. You could sit out in the beer gardens, and they were rammed. Every single one of them, every pub in the country today has been rammed. The weather wasn't even that nice. Doesn't matter. Just because they can. And I suspect it's a similar thing with cinemas. Just because people can, they're like, oh, I'm going.
I actually think, we talked a lot at the start of this pandemic about, maybe if things switch to streaming, it'll be the real beginning of the end of the movie theaters. And Godzilla vs Kong's kind of shown us that it might actually end up in a weird way revitalizing them a little bit, where people realize that they like them enough that
maybe, because I don't know if you've spoken about this already in the last few days, but Warner's plans with what's going on with their next year's releases.
I mean, that's older than a few days now, so no, but yeah.
Right, fair. Just the idea that they were talking explicitly like, okay, no, next year's releases will go back to cinema first, not the HBO Max dual release. But they did say there'll be a shorter window. It'll only be like 45 days, and then it'll be hitting Max.
As someone who likes to go to the movies, I'm glad that it looks like that they will bounce back, and that people seemingly are still going to go and see big movies in the theater. And it's because I think that was the thing. It's particularly in the US, where if you had HBO Max, it's sitting there for free, but it still made more money than anything. And admittedly, okay, a lot of theaters weren't open, a lot of stuff wasn't coming out, but the fact that it was being competitive with the previous film in the franchise, and that was released in normal times, says a lot. And so I think we might be okay. Anyway, so Universal also moved some things around. Forever Purge, which is the final Purge.
Forever Purge. Is that what it's called?
The Forever Purge is the sixth, no, the fifth or sixth, whatever we're on. That's going to be the second. That's moving to 2nd of July from 9th of July, which is basically nothing. It's a week. So whatever.
That didn't need to be told.
Yes. Yes. And Sony's Peter Rabbit 2: The Runaway. I didn't realize there was a Peter Rabbit one, but whatever. Is moving from the 2nd of July to the 18th of June. So
I only know this movie exists because it was the very first movie to be delayed by all of this. Because it was meant to be coming out in April last year. I think it was meant to be more or less an Easter release because rabbits.
Yeah.
And it was time for the Easter holidays and stuff. It was this movie that was delayed first, and then Bond followed, and that was the one that knocked the dominoes really. But this does get the credit.
Yeah. Doesn't matter how long it's been. I'm still not going to see the new Bond in theaters. It's not happening.
I'm so desperate to see the new Bond. I just want it so badly.
They're going to say it's been too long, and they're going to scrap it and just say, "We'll just start again."
There was all that talk that they might have to reshoot a whole load of stuff because all the gadgets and all the product placement is outdated now. Because all the whatever phone company they got this time that paid for all their product placement, those phones are 3 years old now.
They're going to do a Cavill's mustache thing. They're just going to CG in the new models, and it's just going to look kind of off the whole time. Yeah. Every time he holds a phone up to his ear, there's going to be this weird, uncanny kind of separation.
But there was genuine talk about this. What are they going to do? Because the sponsors are not happy, essentially.
Oh, I'm so sorry, sponsors. I don't know if you noticed, there was a worldwide pandemic that shut the entire world down for 2 years. You pricks.
Yep. New phones kept on coming out though, didn't they?
Anyway, moving on. So Oscar-nominated screenwriter John Logan is going to make his directorial debut with a horror movie called Whistler Camp for Blumhouse. So, he wrote Red, which is a play. He wrote the book for the musical Moulin Rouge. As a screenwriter, he worked on The Aviator, Hugo, Gladiator.
Okay. I was gonna, because you were giving me his I was like, well, what was he Oscar nominated for? And then you listed those three. I was like, okay, never mind.
Yeah, he's nominated for those three. And this is just the order it given. His films on his list also include, funnily enough, Skyfall, Spectre, The Last Samurai, Sweeney Todd, Rango, Alien Covenant, Any Given Sunday.
I will assume that was not his fault.
I'm going to assume too. But yes. So,
I like most of those movies there, so I'm interested.
Yeah. There's not much on the plot. It's just simple sentence here. Whistler Camp is a queer empowerment story set at a gay conversion camp. So it's a horror movie set at a gay conversion camp. That's actually quite an inspired setting for a horror movie.
I'm shocked it hasn't been done already.
Because you can mix a lot of real world horror of that in with whatever the horror sort of thing is. I don't know if it's a killer or something, but whatever. So there you go. Blumhouse doing some more interesting things. So I think we're moving on to TV now. Netflix has landed the 39 Steps, which we already knew about. This was something. This was before it became Mail of Fuzz news. We did the almost cancelled news. Benedict Cumberbatch was in line to star in a 39 Steps miniseries based on the Hitchcock. Well, not based on the Hitchcock movie. It's based on the book, but same thing. It's based on. Netflix have landed it, so Netflix are going to do this limited series. So this is going to be a big prestige thing for them to push out and sort of advertise. This will be their Queen's Gambit of whatever year. Very
confident we'll be covering this.
We're definitely going to look at it. Yeah, we'll definitely be trying this. There's no doubt about that. So yeah, that's the real thing about the news. Go check out the Hitchcock movie if you haven't. No, so this is from the 30s, so it's obviously a bit dated, but that's it. It's worth watching. Next up, M. Hain, who was in Deadpool apparently. She is going to lead opposite Caitlin Kinnunen and Bella Ortiz in CW's Our Ladies of Brooklyn.
Fun fact, I was like, I recognise that name, M. Hain.
Yeah.
She was the hot chocolate girl in the Mighty Ducks that we just reviewed.
You mean that we reviewed tonight? That's coming out later.
Yes, the one we just did.
We then just don't ruin the illusion. It's coming out later tonight. We're not done that yet. It's in the future. Stop it.
They can.
You're ruining the facade.
Oh, okay, fine. You have no idea who this person is. I'm so sorry.
You're breaking kayfabe. Stop it. All right.
I don't know your schedule.
So yes, this is a pilot that's been ordered by CW. Our Ladies of Brooklyn is a dramedy about two millennial nuns. I think we talked about this back when
We
it was in
did
early
talk about
development.
this. Yeah.
Sinister Francis, a devout true believer, and Sister Maggie, a new arrival who has yet to take her final vows, who start as strangers and become sisters on a funny spiritual journey to understand their own faith and place in the Catholic Church. Sounds wacky.
I remember being equally as disappointed the first time you read that description. Where did you start with millennial nuns? And I was like, okay, go on then. And then by the end, I was like, oh yeah, never mind.
All right, next up. So Jamie Lannister's actor, Nikolaj Coster-Waldau.
I think it's Nikolai.
Is this Nikolai? Okay.
I think it's like a silent J / almost like an I. I don't know.
All right, fine. I'll just say it like the Resident Evil 3's character then, Nikolai. Nikolai. Anyway, so he's going to be starring in something for Sony TriStar Television. It's a mini-series for a novel by Christina Clancy. It's called The Second Home. He's also executive producing, which you notice that a lot these days. Like, the lead actors will also be executive producers. And I'll be honest, I'm pretty sure it's just an excuse to give them an extra paycheck. It's just like, oh yeah, I'll star in it, but I want an executive producer credit and then a paycheck to go with that executive producer role. That's basically the gist of it, I think.
The reality, as a role in general, executive producers have very little say over what the actual content is. That's more the actual producer role.
Except, well, this is the thing. Except bizarrely in TV, where you don't tend to get because there's no showrunner credit. See, when you watch a TV show, it doesn't say showrun by or showrunner as. Mm-hmm. They'll just get an executive producer credit. So bizarrely, when you're watching a TV show, one of the executive producers are actually the most important person creatively in the whole show.
Yes.
But when you're watching this is a TV show, admittedly, but when you're watching a movie, the executive producer names are basically meaningless.
But that's true for all the rest of the executive producer names on a TV show as well.
But one of them is the most important person in the whole show.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the drama follows Gordon and Shaw families beyond a fateful summer at Cape Cod. Told through two generations, the story explores how a devastating secret can derail young love, tear apart families, and change the fate of countless individuals forever if they let it. The novel was published last June.
Sounds kind of generic.
It's just a bit dry.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it doesn't mean it'll be bad, but just in terms of just that description, it's just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Next up, Freeform is put in development a show called Trap Queen, which is produced by Danny Strong, who you may know as Jonathan in the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So this is coming from him. That's the thing, his name comes up a decent amount in the TV news because he's actually a big hotshot producer these days. He's got tons of shows.
He does a lot, yeah. He actually has say in a lot of this content.
At the very least, he has say in how it all starts. I don't know how involved he is once because I know he set up Empire. Like, I don't know if he's still involved with Empire. Is Empire even still on?
He clearly has a say in what exists.
Yeah. A drama focuses on a gay young man who returns to Puerto Rico after a life-changing event. With the burgeoning local music scene as both the backdrop and the soundtrack, the move forces him to face family and romantic issues he thought he'd left behind and never expected. So, not a lot to go into there, but
it's a freeform show that we're never going to cover, so it's fine.
It's a freeform show, yes. Unless it's on the Patreon vote that month, and the patrons
just don't put it on the vote, and then we're fine.
I will
control the vote.
I will happily agree to that, but sometimes there's not a lot to pick from, and I have to go with stuff like that. So it depends what else is there that month. That's all I'm saying. And then last night in the news is NBC has greenlit 2 pilots, which I will tell you about. So Getaway is the first one. It's centered around a destination wedding at an isolated luxury resort that quickly descends into chaos after a group of dangerous criminals take the island hostage. The small group of guests, led by a fearless female army vet, will do everything they can to stay alive.
I hate this.
I kind of love it. The idea of doing like a show that's basically Die Hard, but it's like a whole season like of one event sounds amazing to me. I'm not convinced
Not on NBC though.
Not on NBC. I'm not convinced that NBC is going to pull it off. I love the idea though that this character is going to be sneaking around and doing her John McClane shit for 22 episodes. That sounds amazing to me. I have to. Surely it's going to take place in close to real time. If that, I mean, maybe not. Maybe it's going to be like a week-long hostage situation or something. But it's just kind of funny to me.
Maybe it's a spiritual successor to 24.
I think it. I think this premise could be amazing. I don't expect it to be on NBC.
That's fair.
I just hope that if it's all right and if it does well enough that it gets a season 2. And they have to come up with an excuse why the same character ends up in a similar situation in season 2. Don't anthologize it. I want the silly with this.
Gotta go insane, yeah.
The other project it's untitled. It's the untitled Nick Wooten and Jake Coburn project. Who are obviously the creators and producers. It's a high-stakes two-hander featuring 2 women, a recently captured brilliant criminal mastermind who orchestrates a number of coordinated bank heists for a mysterious purpose. So not just to get a lot of money. There's a goal. And the principled, relentless, and socially outcast FBI agent who will stop at nothing to foil her ambitious plans.
So the usual then.
I wouldn't say it's the usual, just in the sense that it's not like a different case every week. It sounds like it's one main villain, one main character who's chasing them. At least
sure.
That's a little different to like what you get on CBS. It at least feels that there's a story to tell with this.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
Again, it's on NBC. I'm not expecting much, but
yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe it'll be okay.
But it's co-created by Coburn, previously mentioned, who executive produced the hit TV show Quantico.
That tells me all I need to know. Sign me up.
I only said that because that's where I stole my hit television show thing from. I stole it from.
The worst part of that is because I'd forgotten that was from Scream. You said hit television show. I started growing, and then you said Qua, and I was like, "You gonna say Quarry?" and then you went to Quantica. I was like, "Oh, you're doing this bit."
Yeah. Yes. I couldn't deliver it the way the actress did on that show though. So go watch Scream Queens. It's on Disney Plus.
Not in America. I don't think it is.
Oh, if you got Disney Plus with the star section, it's on there.
Yeah.
Go watch Scream Queens. It's worth it.
Fall in love with Chad Radwell.
Fall in love with Chad Radwell. Honestly, all 3 Chanels. Like, I mean,
yeah.
I want to rewatch Scream Queens. It's been long enough now. I've forgotten most of the jokes. I want to rewatch Scream Queens.
Kind of want to as well.
There you go. That's the news. That's your Tuesday edition of the news. So thank you very much for joining us. You can let us know what you thought of the news that we talked about today in the comments. Please do like and subscribe. It is the easy way to support everything we do on YouTube because it lets YouTube know that it should share us out. And I say let it know, I'm really talking about the algorithm, the AI, the robot at the center of YouTube that sort of dictates which does well and which does not. So hit the likes and the comments and all that. You can support us financially over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV for as little as $1 per month and help keep all the content coming if you want to do that too. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Look out later today for a certain Mighty Ducks Game Changers review, which we are totally going to just watch now and then talk about.
Yes, I'm going to be very excited about one very minor character, it seems.
Just, man. God, you're the worst.
I'm doing this just to wind you up now. It's so much fun.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.